G'day! If anyone works in repair, have they noticed that the PS4s seem to be about one of the most problematic consoles in recent time? If I had to exclude the Xbox 360 and the initial launch of with Red Ring, the PS5s have been the most faulty console I've come across. PS4s I might see one in about 20 now that have died, but the PS5s, I'm hearing a lot of reports of them having issues. In probably the last 12 months, I've already replaced one or two HDMI ports. That's simple, that's straightforward. I'm surprised I haven't seen more, being they're mostly used in the vertical position, and if they're tall, they're probably going to fall. Anyway, excluding HDMI ports, I reckon I've replaced 3 power supplies in them now that have just randomly died at any given moment. It may have been a brownout, it might have been they were in the middle of the game. This particular one here, I purchased off a customer. It was faulty, it had a dead power supply, and I do believe they were saying along the lines of the games were crashing at one point for them, and eventually the power supply completely failed. From there, I ended up repairing it, and then they came back in a week later and just said, "Nah, we don't want it, you just want to buy it back." So I bought it back, and from there, it had one particular motocross game in there, loaded it up, played fine, factory reset the console, put it up for sale. Less than a week later, the purchaser came back in and said it's crashing on everything when it tries to load a game. I thought that was odd, considering that I had no dramas with it. Granted, it was a shorter time span I looked at it, especially if you're going to sit down and play a game for a couple of hours. You're going to do that for a lot longer than me trying to test out a console for 15 minutes. Anyway, carrying on. From there, I tried to load up into safe mode, do the rebuild, clear the cache. From there, I've done the system reinstall. There's no external SSD or internal SSD added. It's only using the internal storage that's already built in. And from there, still crashing, still crashing. I've seen another PS5 just recently as well, where it wouldn't play PS5 games, it would instantly crash upon trying to load them. But I'd be able to load up the go-to test game that I've got for the PS4 is just a quick and easy game to install, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Put that in there, it played it perfectly fine, it was happy. Tony was skating everywhere. But put in a PS5 game, instant crash. I just seem to be seeing constant issues like this, which makes me think going on finding a PS5 in the next 15 years, after the console's long since past its prime, I feel like there's going to be a lot of dead ones, similar to the Xbox 360. Now, if we have a closer look at the error messages that we're getting, you may be getting something very similar to me. So right now, I'm getting 18255, but also I'm getting 108262. Something went wrong with the system, or system software. And as you see there, happened quite frequently. And also this particular one here, 108262, that happened during the reinstall of the firmware. So while I was reinstalling it, it literally crashed. It finished the installation, it got to the initial setup screen where you select your character, or select your icon, sign into your accounts, all the various settings. Halfway through that, I was selecting the icon, or actually got to selecting the profile avatars or profile icons. I'm scrolling through the list and it literally just crashed on me. It didn't fully completely turn off, but it crashed, produced the error message, I clicked don't send, and it then jumped back to the icons or the avatars. So I'm quite fearful where these are going to be in the next 5-10 years, especially with the large failure rate, especially with the very uncertain error messages. That's all speculation out there at the moment. So for example, the 108262-9, most people just go, just rebuild the cache, delete the cache in safe mode, rebuild, and possibly reinstall. All of which I do believe are probably going to make very little difference, because no one knows what that technical error message means, apart from the very broad generic term that it gives us, of something went wrong with system software. That's like saying my body hurts. I've stubbed my toe, but my body hurts. Help me, my body hurts. It doesn't really narrow it down. Anyway, I'm just having a bit of a rant about that, as it has pissed me off quite a bit. Especially I'm seeing it more frequently, where there's just random crashes on games, not even demanding games, not even getting into the game. So I'm not sure if it's a failure of the onboard memory, the failure of the onboard NVMe drive, or what's going on there. One thing I could potentially try is adding in a NVMe drive and then moving the game to the NVMe drive and seeing if it goes. That may potentially help it. I'm doubtful it will. But yeah, sadly, the more that it became a PC, the less upgradable it became, and also the more problematic it seems to have become. Considering something like the PS3, they're starting at a bit of a failure rate now, becoming PC-like. PS2, rarely find a dead PS2. PS1, they're dumb as hell, they just keep going. Anyway, that's my rant about the PS5s and what seemingly seems to be a high failure rate of them. Bye.